Evan Williams Bottled and Bond Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Take it or leave it. Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. Hello, my whiskey curious friends. Welcome to Whiskey Whistle, your wise choice in independent whiskey and spirits reviews, bringing you Evan Williams Bottled and Bond Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey here on Whiskey Whistle. Now, I've already got that poured from my top 5 go-to everyday whiskeys, and this is definitely a whiskey that you could drink every day. It's got a great price to it. It's also got great pedigree and definitely something interesting. Bottled and Bond. Now, I just read this here. I did not see this. This here, it says single distillery. And that's sort of harking to the Scotch terminology of single malt. Single meaning distillery. And being bottled and bond, it must be distilled and bottled at the same distillery in the same distilling season for a minimum of 4 years and stored in a government bonded warehouse. So lots of real, we'll call that real Kentucky bourbon pedigree here. Absolutely bottled by Heaven Hill, who are the makers of this, and absolutely distilled by them. In fact, it's distilled by the same person. So very, very interesting. Let's see. This special Bottled and Bond bourbon is a genuine sour mash that honors Evan Williams' pioneering heritage. And as I read here, Bottled and Bond status is earned only by meeting strict government standards, originally passed in 1897 to ensure quality and consistency. In accordance with these standards, this bourbon is 100 proof, that's the minimum, produced aged at least 4 years, and produced at a single distillery within a single distilling season, as I mentioned. All right, anyway, so let's get into this now. We're going to look at the color of the whiskey. This is natural color, by the way. All bourbons are, if they are made in USA, which they should be. They should also be bottled there. I think there are some bourbons that go to other countries that are distilled and barreled in USA and then maybe bottled elsewhere. So I've heard. Anyway, we'll look at the color. We'll check out the legs, then the nose, the smell, and the taste, and the finish before we give it a Whiskey Whistle whiskey score. All right, so let's check out the color here. Now, 50% ABV being matured in new virgin oak casks, charred casks, definitely makes it dark. So you've definitely got a very dark, not even gold, this is more into the copper end of things. The darkest possible amber that you can maybe get. And let's see if it's got some nice legs to it. Are you a fan of legs of whiskeys? It's like wine. It gives you an indication of viscosity. And the slower they go, the more viscous. For whatever reason, whether that is cask content, as in some single malt whiskeys, whether that is new oak that has a little bit more extracts from the oak itself, or whether that's straight ABV, all of those things have a factor in the viscosity. So let's check it out here. Okay. Definitely very slow. Look at that. They just drizzle down very nicely. Last review was Glenmorangie, which is matured in ex-bourbon oak. And you can definitely see the difference here. This is much slower, even though it's got the same cask per se. All right, let's check out the nose here. bourbon. It's absolutely bourbon. It's got the bourbon smell to it. You will recognize it as such. But it's kind of like cedar oak sauna. It's a real warming oak. It's got a little bit of wood smoke, but not too much. It's more like an just slightly toasted or just lightly charred oak. I wonder what the char is here. I should have checked that and I didn't. I'm going to say that that's going to be a number 3 char. And you got some big caramels here. A whole lot of vanilla. And some nice fresh apples as well. Fresh sweet apples that are very, very ripe. Wow, my mouth is watering. I was going to say my mouth is mottering. All right. Let's check out the palate. Cheers, everybody. It's beyond medium dry, but it's also quite sweet. So it's a sweet, dry bourbon. And we still have apple slices here. Interestingly, a little bit of orange rind coming through on the palate. And then a big, rich oakiness. Generous caramel. Ample vanilla. The vanilla is more like vanillin. So, you know, real vanilla has a certain earthiness to it, whereas vanillin is the extract. So that's what I'm kind of getting here, is this sort of extract of vanilla, which you can also get from oak and other woods. It's got a slightly creamy, buttery, maybe like like a well-toasted Wonder Bread with a nice, what's that, like Land O'Lakes butter slathered on there. And then to that you add a little bit of Smucker's strawberry jam. Or also Smucker's orange marmalade. The finish is definitely oaky. A little bit of wood smoke. It is, it also, I still have those apples there, those very ripe, almost overripe apples at the peak of ripeness. It's got a very long finish. And as I mentioned in that top 5 go-to everyday whiskeys, this has at 50% a palate, what can I call that? It's kind of like the wind chill effect. The mouth effect of this is more like around 45% or 90 proof. So much less sharp than I would expect for 50%, and a little bit more approachable, which is very nice. And again, at round about $30 Canadian, I think this is about $20 in USA. This is a no-brainer. This is a definite buy, and an excellent bourbon. Something that is this inexpensive and this good. This is the same company, by the way, that makes Elijah Craig, which is much more expensive, and a few other brands. It's developing a little bit sweeter as time passes. Now let's add just a little bit of water. Just a little bit more. There we go. Stir that about. Now again, for bourbon drinkers, especially the new breed of bourbon drinkers, they're looking for the real hot brands, the latest and greatest. They're looking for the Pappy Van Winkles. They're looking for the Old Weller 12-year-old, or things like Stagg Jr. or George T. Stagg. And they're overlooking some of these gems which are made by the same companies as some of those more expensive bourbons. So here we have a 4-year-old, and it's probably more than 4 years old. It might be maybe 5, 5.5, maybe even 6. That's being sold for such a reasonable price that you'd be silly not to go and get some. All right, now the nose with water added. Much drier. A little bit more of that orange rind is now coming through on the nose. And a hint of salted caramel. All right, now the palate. Cheers again. Much sweeter. A bit dry, but it really brings the sweetness out in this Bottled and Bond Evan Williams. Now, speaking of Bottled and Bond and good price, there's also a Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond, and I would love to get my hands on one of those just to try it. I'm sure it's great, and yet again, this is something that is overlooked by today's bourbon drinkers. All right, here we go. Even more of that buttery toast with a bit of strawberry or a bit of orange marmalade from Smucker's. And I mention those because I have strong taste memories of those two jams. Okay, and the finish. Again, very long. Not quite as dry on the finish, so it's a little bit different with water added. I think I prefer it with water added than neat. It'd be great to try that with a bit of branch. So mix Evan Williams with the same water that you get in Kentucky from the, I guess that's the lime influenced water that you get, what's called the branch water. lime, is it? I can't remember exactly what that is. Anyway, so interesting whiskey, lovely to have, and I will definitely get that again. Absolutely. That's why I included it in my top 5 go-to everyday whiskeys. All right, so now the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Evan Williams. What is that going to be? Well, folks, the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Evan Williams, bottled and bond, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, that is going to be 88 out of 100. Yes, you heard right, 88 out of 100 for Evan Williams, bottled and bond. Now, if you're just getting into whiskey and you're interested in bottled and bond, you should also know that there are some acronyms that are often used in bourbon, and bottled and bond is often written as capital B, small I, capital B, bib. And Evan Williams you may see as EW, and Elijah Craig as EC, so EWBIB. Anyway, quite interesting how that's become so prevalent that you almost need to know those acronyms to really get to know what people think about whiskeys, because it's like a secret code. All right, so the EWBIB, final taste here. Cheers, everybody. Real nice bourbon. All right, well, that's it for me. Thanks for joining. Hit that little emblem right over there, the WhiskyWhistle emblem. Subscribe to the channel. Click the bell. Get notified of future whiskey whistles. And hey, if you'd like, I'd love to see you at Patreon. Get a little bit more involved. Get into the WhiskyWhistle community. There's some interesting things coming up very soon. And probably even at the time of this publishing, I'll have already told everybody in Patreon about what is coming to them. So you may want to get involved there. There's also a whole bunch of other benefits that I try to provide my patrons to add value to the small and medium and large offerings that some of them offer me on a monthly basis. So check that out, okay? Anyway, thanks everybody. Hope you like that. Stay tuned for the next one, which is going to be Johnny Walker Green Label. All right, take care. Goodbye. Thanks for watching Whiskey Whistle. Be sure to subscribe, and don't forget to give this video a like and leave a comment down below. Be sure to stay tuned next time to join me, the host of the show, Mark, as I explore more whiskeys with you. Take care now, and we'll see you next time.